All right, what is up, everybody? Shuttle Scout 0013 here, reporting in for a kind of unit breakdown on Agent Kallus. And so I know we're on the heels of the new rule releases, and I'm glad they're releasing it right now, and we're getting bits and pieces of it entirely. And I think that the Fifth Trooper had put out a great video today that talked a lot about the rules and a lot about the different situations of those rules. And I highly suggest watching that if you want something kind of going overall with, the new rule kind of updates to get a better idea of what's going on. So I would watch them because they're going to be better at explaining it than me. And I'll kind of incorporate some of what I know with the command, or sorry, with the new rules. I'll kind of incorporate it into this and into a few other videos that I make and bring those rules up so that way kind of like the situations make sense, especially as soon as, I continue learning about those new rules. And hopefully when it all drops, it'll be a lot easier to understand. So yeah, go watch them if you want the rules. Today I'm just going to kind of break down Agent Kallus and, give you kind of what I know and what I like about him and what I don't like about him, and kind of let you guys comment below about what you guys like or don't like, or maybe other lists that you guys have done before or that you want to see with Kallus, kind of, and make up your own, or just go to the Discord and either go to the Empire list or Empire chat and type in whatever question you have. You can go to general chat and kind of talk about the new rules and stuff about pass, which I'll kind of talk about today in some of the lists that I have. Or if you have rules questions, we'll kind of answer what we can and, kind of make the best of it. If you do have anything that you're working on, if you've got some finished projects, there's some people who, man, this was a really nice ATST by Auburn alumni, which is really cool. Nice. And yeah, I think it's fantastic. So everything that is in here that you guys put, I see, and it's just wonderful to have such, awesome people in here that really love talking about, the different stuff in Star Wars Legion. And then if you haven't already, it's beginning to be the new year soon. And with that, it would probably be awesome to subscribe for 15 bucks a month for tons of workouts, 3, 4, 5, 6 day week workout plans that are all 3 months long, corrective exercise program, 30-minute program, at home workouts, just in case you can't make it to a gym. And then a whole bunch of other stuff, plus 120 different recipes, being able to track your progress and see it graph, start out. If you're starting out in the gym, this is perfect because you'll download the app. You'll basically have access to everything, and then you can just go from there. And then any updates that I make, you'll get. But this is perfect for anyone who is not in the gym or wants to get started in the gym and just, instead of going to a personal trainer and having them do stuff, there's different things to learn in the app. And, it's only 15 bucks a month, which is what, 50 cents a day. So yeah. Now let's talk about Kallus. On his unit card, he is, I think, what is he, 90 points naturally? Oh man. We take everything off. Yeah, 90 points naturally, which is fairly cheap. I like that. And yeah, let's go ahead and look at him real quick. He's got contingencies too. So whenever you are building a command hand, you can set aside up to 2 extra cards as contingencies. How that's going to work is, say that you want to lay down, we're going to say Vader's Mind. But really, you don't need to play it. You'll lay that down, and then out of your contingencies, you'll put down Face Me. And then from that, as far as I know, he has Cunning. So when your command, basically, because you're going to lay down the card, and then your contingency is going to basically go over that. And that's going to be the command card that you choose. And with Cunning, when your specific command cards are played, so basically if you played Face Me, if there would be a tie, for priority, you're going to treat your command card as though it has one fewer pip. So you're going to be able to go first. So that's another easy way to kind of use him either by himself or, if he does need to make an action, it's a great way to incorporate some of his to get priority. If you're not even trying to use his and gain cunning, maybe you vice versa that. Maybe instead of having Vader's might, you had face me and you wanted to put Vader's might down. Well, you'd lose cunning, but at the same time, you're being able to do more with Vader in a situation that Vader might be in. And, I always liked to put those face me and ruthless tactics, and I'll explain his command cards in a second. Flawed. So he does have a flaw card. So his flaw card is developing sympathies. So what you would do is you may play this card at the start of the command phase if there's a wounded enemy agent Kallus. So if in the round before you wounded your opponent's Kallus, because this card's going to be given to your opponent. So if you're playing Agent Kallus, if you have a wounded Kallus, your opponent is going to play this before you lay down command cards at the start of the next command phase. So before you lay down your command card, they're going to play this. And you can play this if your opponent has a wounded. Yeah. So from there, at the end of the enemy Agent Kallus's activation, if he performed an attack, he's going to gain 4 suppression tokens. Honestly, this is not a big deal whatsoever. You have 2 command cards that are going to allow you to recover and get rid of those suppressions, that suppression immediately, basically. So I know it's after you attack, but the next turn, you're not going to panic because at the end of the turn, you're probably going to take one down, especially if you're stuck in melee and you attacked. Oh, wow, you gained 4 suppression at the end. All right, so at the next turn, you've got 2 other command cards that you can use to recover yourself, completely, ignoring all of that. So it's not the biggest deal at all. Now, if you're out in the open and you've got a wound and they play this, and maybe you tried to move in and you're still out in the open, gaining that force suppression and them allowing to shoot back at you still, gaining even more, when it depends on what you use next turn. So I think with Face Me, during Agent Kallus's activation, he's going to gain Agile 1 and Block. So you're going to be able to make a move, gain an aim and a dodge, which I'll explain in a second, because he's got Tactical 1. So anytime he makes a move, he's going to gain an aim. So he's also going to gain Agile 1 at the same time, giving him an aim and a dodge, an aim and a dodge. And during Agent Alice's activation, he may perform a free recover action. So you'd have to make sure that you rallied first, because rallying step takes place before your activation. So then you could perform your free recover action, and then move, because if you attach his weapon, which I'll get to in a minute, he's going to gain charge. So that would give you the ability to gain 2 aims and 2 dodges, also allowing you to, in this turn, because it's not permanent, it's just this turn, gain block. So especially if he's in his melee config, he's going to gain, let me just show you, immune to pierce. So while defending against a melee attack, you gain immune to pierce, which is really nice against force users who, like Vader or, Yoda, Luke, Maul. Basically, he's going to be good at just kind of not getting killed as fast. Force push is still going to be a problem with that. Maybe you attack and then they force push you and you gain all of that suppression now. And then now they're going to try to attack you and give you as much suppression as possible. And then with Ruthless Tactics, after an enemy unit defends, blah, 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 during Agent Kallus's activation, he may perform a free recover. So it's always, you're going to have to rally first. But like I said, if you are stuck in melee and you then, get 4 suppression when you start again, maybe you get 1 action, you'll be able to recover for free and do whatever you need to. You're not going to get your 2 actions, but, it at least allows you to get rid of all that suppression at the end. And like I said, anyway, if you were to then move and charge again, you're still going to get an aim because of tactical. And then right here, getting that aim. And then with the bow rifle or the bow staff, you gain charge. So it honestly, I think his flaw card is just easily passable. Almost kind of like, with Anakin's build, you can bring ploy, and that'll kind of negate the whole flaw effect. So usually there's some kind of ways around it, so they're not that bad. I really like Kallus right now, honestly, because sorry guys, he's got cunning. So if you are just using him as in a gun line, because he's going to be really good, honestly, keeping the gun line safe. Because maybe if Darth Vader, in this list particularly, if Darth Vader's tied up, then Agent Kallus can watch the back line and make sure that really not too many melee users like maybe Wookiees can do much, because he's going to be immune to Pierce, so they're not going to be able to use Duelist against him. He doesn't have to even spend a dodge for Duelist. He just naturally has it with this bow rifle. So that's why that is also almost like a must every single time. He's got Sharpshooter 1, so even when you do shoot, you're going to be shooting a red, 2 black, and white. That range 1 to 3 with Sharpshooter 1. Anytime you move, you're going to be gaining Pierce. So you can move, have an aim, shoot. Maybe you gain a crit because he surges to crit as well. You just spend that aim for Pierce. So there you go. It's easy to get Pierce with him, with his moving. There's a lot of good stuff with him. He just is not going to be the greatest against Darth Vader, because again, force push, being able to move him out is just awful, and someone can still disengage from him. He can't leave, but at least he's going to be able to keep his own. If you didn't take anything, he's got a range 1 to 2, Pierce 1 with 2 black and a white, still surging to crit, and then he's got 2 red and melee, which is not that bad if you're trying to go super cheap. But if you're going to bring him, you might as well go with the bow staff, especially with tactical 1 and the agile 1 with his command card. He's got 6 health. He's going to have 2 courage, so not the greatest courage. He does have red dice, which is not that bad. And there's lots of stuff that you can honestly put on him, especially with the new command stuff. Lead by example, I think, would be pretty good, because usually you're not going to have anything else in there, at least in some instances, of someone being able to take away courage or take away suppression. So lead by example would be really, really good. He can take underworld connections, and especially with his contingencies. Whenever I think about using Kallus, the main thing that I'm trying to use him for are his contingencies, to be able to kind of bring multiple heroes or villains and use more of their command cards in situations. So he's best paired with Vader, and let's see, he'll probably be good with Vader and or the IG 88 with his 2 command cards, with any other bounty hunter, basically. Just because, especially Boba Fett too, because of the fact that they'll probably have multiple command cards, and I'll explain in just a minute. Like IG-88 has two pips, so it's a little bit more situational. Maybe if you needed to bring Agent Callus's 2 pip, which I love a lot, but you didn't need it, and you needed to use IG-88s more, you just contingency your Agent Kallus card and put down the other situational card for IG-88. So Agent Kallus, I feel like, is better paired with units that have multiple command cards, but there's also, again, ways to just use him by himself, but he's not that powerful by himself. So honestly, there's no point in doing that. Like I said, so I like him, especially with his bow staff, being able to move, gain an aim with his one of his command cards, being able to gain a dodge and stuff. It's amazing. So let's just kind of go over this again real quick. So during his activations, he's going to gain Agile 1 block. So anytime you're going up against a Force user, you're going to be able to gain Surge to defense whenever you do have to roll. And you're going to be able to get 2 dodges if you double move. And then you've got Charge, like I said. If you take him with maybe environmental gear or ascension cables, so that way he can just ignore kind of that difficult terrain and just kind of scale over it, it's going to be way better on him. And then he can perform a free recover action, basically, so that he can change his, bow rifle to a bow staff. And then this is the only time that enemy units that are engaged cannot withdraw. So this is perfect if, from trying to leave him out in the open so that in case he does wind up having to attack and then gain 4 suppression, that you could use it this turn, and then during Agent Kallus's activation, he can do it, but then he's going to gain, suppression at the end, and then at the very next turn, you can use his 3-pip to give him another recover, but he's still going to have 1 action if you don't roll off all the suppression that he gained. He's going to only have 3. You're probably going to roll off 1, possibly. So then you might, at least still get 1 action, maybe 2, if you can roll off 2. And then he'll be able to recover and go back into either, the rifle mode or stay there and at least recover and get his ascension cables back or anything else that he's got. And then after an enemy unit defends against a ranged attack, it's going to gain an observation token or 2 observation tokens if it has a number of suppression tokens equal to or exceeding its courage value. So that's a lot. If you are shooting at pikes, okay, and they have a suppression, it's going to gain an observation token. And it's probably going to gain another suppression. So it's going to have now 2 suppression. If you have another unit shoot at that, maybe use an aim and then use the observation token, it's going to gain 2 observation tokens if it has a number of suppression tokens equal to or exceeding its courage value. Because maybe you have the pike capo in the unit, having the unit have courage 2. So if it is courage 2, you have to have 2 suppression tokens to get 2 observation tokens. If it's a courage 1 and it already has 1 on 1 suppression, it's going to gain 2 because it has a number of suppression equal to its courage value. So this is really good against core because you're going to be able to really try to take down the core as much as possible, or if you were able to use the mortar or any other kind of Bosk to put out suppression the turn either before or even this turn, the units that really need those extra observation tokens can use them. So this is perfect, especially for a very suppressive list. So great with Krennic with this one, or great with Death Troopers, great with mortars, being able to really make use of those observation tokens. And then again, he can perform that free recover. Now his 2-pip, which I thoroughly love, and I'm sorry I'm going out of order. It's just kind of like the scenario that I was talking about, and now things have changed. So with his 2-pip, you're going to be able to give it to him and 2 units. With his 3-pip, sorry, I missed it. You're going to be able to give it to him and 2 units. With this one, just him and a unit, I should say. So 2 units altogether. So declare a number and choose an opponent, which you're only going to have 1 opponent. So maybe in the future, if they do include more, like a 2 versus 2 player game, then sure, maybe, I don't know. You would just basically choose a number. That opponent sets aside face up any command cards in their hand that have a number of pips equal to the declared number. So say on turn 2, you decide to play this one because maybe you think on turn 3 they're going to, or you play this one on turn 1 because you assume that the next round they're going to play a 1-pip. You can declare 1 pips, and then your opponent will have to set aside their 1 pips, both of them, all face up, so that you can see them. Then that opponent returns those command cards to their hand after they select a command card in the subsequent round. So you can't use those. If you play this in round 1 and you declare 1 pips, they can't play any 1 pips for round 2. And then so forth for every other turn, which is really nice if you're trying to prevent someone from playing the 1-pip or, another specific card that they're probably going to play, or at least have in their hand. Or if you just don't know what they have in their hand, this is another good card to play. And then giving it to another unit, yeah, I like it. It's useful for preventing someone from playing maybe Son of Skywalker or Implacable, anything like that, or even Maul having you can't play his 1-pip. If you know that you're going to engage him this round, then you want to play that card, then go and engage him. And then the next turn, when he plays something from he'll be able to disengage. That's fine. It's not withdrawal, so you might as well not play that 1-pip. So yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it with different words. people can still disengage from him if he plays his 1 pip, because it just says withdraw. So people just can't withdraw, but they can disengage easily, like Luke and or Maul. But Vader can still push him. Anyone can still push him, at least just for normal units. You know, it's good against. So maybe you're trying to stop someone from getting into a key position or anything like that, then that's the time for Kallus to shine. Okay, so that's basically Kallus and his command cards. With him, let's look at some of the things that I've made. So with him, I've added tenacity because I honestly think when he starts to get into melee, these 4 dice is really not much. So having tenacity gives him, especially since people probably are trying to injure him at some point, you're going to be able to gain, 2 red, 2 black, and a white. So you're just shy of the double rainbow. For not that expensive, that's pretty nice. So that's why I like him to have those 2, and I think those are the basic, things that I would always put on him for the most part. I put a lot in here to transport Vader, only with the high energy shells, because why would they want to waste so many activations trying to shoot down a really cheap lat, even though it does have Vader on there. And possibly, I went down to 9 activations because of the new pass rule. So you might have lower activations, but then you can kind of deck out, your activations a little bit more. So at least with the pike foot soldiers, I gave them the disruptor and just the foot soldier to give them that extra cash aim when they need it, since they don't surge, they're going to need that. I was able to put extra points on the capo for vigilance. The stormtroopers, I put Del Mico on there to be able to repair the lat, just in case people do have a lot of anti-armor and they're trying to really prevent Vader from getting in as fast as possible. You have Del Mico to kind of repair, and then some stormtroopers to mostly just go after, objectives, and Agent Kallus staying in the back to protect, your back line from a bunch of melee users who are possibly not force users, because they might go after Vader. So it just kind of depends. And, I went with Implacable, Face Me, ISB Investigation, Fear and Dead Men, Darkness Ascends, and Master of Evil. And then for, contingencies, I went with Vader's Might and Ruthless Tactics, just because, Vader's Might is kind of situational, and sometimes Face Me is also that way. So that's why if you don't want to use Face Me, you can go with Vader's Might. And then with Ruthless Tactics, maybe you went with Darkness Ascends, but Master of Evil, he's still in the back, and maybe something's happening and you want to be able to use your pikes because you don't have the surge to get those observation tokens and use them, then the Ruthless Tactics would be good to go. This is 9 activations. It's $7.95. Vader's got Force Choke, Force Push, and Into the Fray and Tenacity because he's in the lat patrol transport, so he's not really going to get shot at. So you really don't need Burst of Speed or Force Reflexes, because as soon as he gets down, he's going to be able to either Force Choke that heavy and then Force Push anyone and just go ham. And then he's also going to have Into the Fray to give him that extra surge just in case he can't take an aim or anything. And then Darkness Ascends is also going to give him reliable too. So, if you don't want Into the Fray to get possibly a ton of surge tokens and spam him with surge, sometimes depends on the situation, you could take that off, save yourself some points, give yourself a bigger bid. It's kind of just up to you on that one. But I only had Agent Kallus in here because of Vader's extra command cards and because he can help with melee in the back while you have kind of like a sniper here and then ton of range 4 here. So, not that bad. Whoops. Let's just kind of do that. All right, so all of this, we'll just go ahead and save for the next one. So this is Kallus and Vader again, mostly just using Kallus for the ability for his contingencies. You don't have to have Into the Fray or Force Choke or Force Push or Tenacity in here. And honestly, if you wanted to save more points, you don't have to have it. I was able to fit Vigilance in here, and 2 pike foot soldiers with the disruptor and the pike capo still getting 10 activations, 2 stormtrooper naked units, and then a shore trooper and a DF mortar, one with the shore trooper. So you do have a lot of range 4 guns big time, and this is able to put out some suppression if need be. Now, if you wanted to, I'm sure you could probably get rid of some stormtroopers and kind of change it out, but I think it's better off with the stormtroopers right now, and the strike team is just good to have in the back, because right now you will have kind of good order control. Basically, Darth Vader is going to be giving himself tons of orders, And then you've got Face Me and Ruthless Tactics just in case you need to, but that is always going to basically give him an order. So you won't have to worry about that. You'll have 2 commanders in the order pool, 6 core, and then a special forces, which is just a sniper strike team. So it's pretty easy to just kind of leave in the back. If you don't want that and you wanted to kind of go down and use the new pass rule, so basically, if you've got those fewer orders left to go than your opponent, then you can take your turn to pass once per round, even if you've had the same activations in total on the, like, just in general, like both of you had 10 activations. If you still have 8 and they've got 9 to go, then you can use that pass. So again, watch the Fifth Trooper podcast. I think the Notorious Scoundrels podcast, I should say, they did a really good job of explaining all of that. Now then, again, you've got a really good force user here, and since he's getting all of the command cards and getting all the orders, I decided to just kind of leave Kallus with his bow staff. You're welcome to take, this out, and if you could save another point somewhere, which is going to be really, really hard, I guess you could take Vigilance out, but I would keep Vigilance in just in case Vader has something too, Yeah, it just kind of depends. I'll just keep, well, yeah. Oh, well, we'll just go into the fray. You can also, add anger. No, not anger. There's a lot of things you can add just in case you didn't want it. Let's see. Endurance wouldn't be that bad, just in case, to make sure you always, since he's not going to be in a lot, always get rid of that extra suppression at the end in case you need it. Offensive push could be okay, just to get that extra aim in case you want it. Up close and personal. If you feel like you're going to be making, a ton of ranged stuff with his 2 black dice, then sure, give you that extra dodge. That could actually be another way to go. But you'd have to get rid of something else because it would just be too expensive. That's an extra 4 points and you only have extra 3 points. So it's just kind of tough. Now, again, with the pass rule, you can have fewer activations, but stronger synergies and stronger activations. So, kind of like being on the Republic, the clones, take that down and go ahead and give your Stormtrooper, well, why not give him Gideon? 782, that way he can, if he were to get an order somehow, he'd be especially from maybe Ruthless Tactics or Master of Evil, he'd be able to, coordinate to the shore, so he could then possibly, if they're in range, coordinate to the DF mortar. It just kind of depends on how close they are. So yeah, I mean, and that kind of beefs up your units a lot more, even though it gives you less, it gives you a bigger bid. Now you can give yourself lead by example. And then even possibly, if you wanted to, you could give him tenacity. And if you wanted to get rid of all that, you could, but that's just up to you. That's honestly just, trying to take advantage of the new rules, especially even using fire support. That's going to allow you definitely to probably be able to pass and hopefully use Vader later. Now, here's a little skirmish. It's 6 activations. You can go as high as 7 activations if you got rid of Gideon and Dell and gave yourself just another Stormtrooper unit. And that's honestly up to you. But to make things stronger, I gave him Dell just to have that pierce ability with lethal, with the aim. Gideon to be able to coordinate to your Del Miko if you wanted to. You have a Royal Guard with environmental gear to kind of go with Kallus. And then if you wanted to get rid of tenacity and put it on Kallus, you could. And then I've got 2 dewback riders that are just practically the T21. It's 6 activations. Like I said, 495. You got 5 extra points with. You could do with whatever you wanted. Maybe you wanted to put an extra dodge on Kallus, or if you're really trying to keep Kallus protected, you can go with Protector. That's another way to be able to use the IRG in case you wanted to protect Kallus a little bit more, but that's just up to you. You probably don't need it, honestly, because of his attack pool being so little, although he is your commander. Now you can give, him prepared supplies, which will allow him to live a little bit longer. So there you go. You can try that one. And I'm saving these guys for you, or saving these lists for you guys, I should say. Here's a Kallus and Reptiles. So a Kallus Bosk list, kind of giving Agent Kallus tenacity this time. Boss can gain Hunter, Seize Initiative, and Targeting Scopes, and I think these are the go-to boss upgrades, mostly because Hunter, he's always going to want that aim anytime he's shooting at a wounded trooper unit, especially the bounty that he has. Targeting Scopes because he is shooting a ton of white, and he's shooting just 5 in general. So an aim is only going to allow you to roll 2, and maybe you roll maybe 2 hits to begin with. That extra targeting scopes allow you to roll 3. So the bigger the dice pool, the more you want targeting scopes, but I would start thinking about targeting scopes if they've got at least, a ton of white dice. I wouldn't put targeting scopes on like Boba Fett because it's black, he surges crit, and the chances of getting a hit or crit or surge or something like that is a lot higher than on black dice than on white dice. So having targeting scopes is definitely almost a must on Bosk. And then seize the initiative because, maybe you need to give him an order at some point. Then I have the Black Sun Vigo with improvised orders because you do have the random Bosk and maybe you don't want him to go at that time. So I gave improvised orders instead. You have 2 Black Sun Enforcers that are both Courage 2. So technically you have got like a Courage 2, Courage 2, Courage 2, another 2 Courage 2s, and then 3 Courage 2s. So most of your army is at least Courage 2, and only 3 out of the 11 are Courage 1. So really, I didn't put anything that's going to try to take away suppression, I should say. And this is going to be great because these Black Sun Enforcers get that extra surge, which you can use for defense or offense. And since they roll red for defense, then having the extra surge to defense randomly is going to be helpful each turn. And or if they have to get in close quarters combat and use a red each, you're getting your 5 red and a surge, just in case. Then you got your random stormtroopers, which are fine because they're, it's gonna be perfect, cheap, nice units with red saves, and then 3 dewback riders with tenacity. This is ton of reptile stuff. Empire just has a ton of reptilian units and now, and it's just kind of fun to use and kind of go with that theme if you're really into it too. But 11 activations with Kallus, and again, his contingencies being able to bring merciless munitions just in case you didn't want to use ambush and maybe you wanted to go with him instead, you could, and then lying in wait in case you didn't want to use assault and you just wanted to rack up some aims because maybe you knew that you were going to be able to get to your bounty and you wanted to made sure that you had enough aims to get him, then sure, lying in wait would be perfect, but you never know how that's going to wind up turning out. So it's just up to you on that. But 11 activations, it's a lot of fun. And now you have Agent Kallus with Boba. Here's 11 acts, and then I'll give you a skirmish list with him. So I decided to go with Ascension Cables to keep him more mobile instead of hitting harder so that he just kind of moves around more. And if he needs to get to someone who's getting close to stall them, then he can. And that would be great with Ascension Cables getting him faster, especially with charge if he's in his melee, bow rifle staff. Boba Fett with up close and personal, situational awareness, the flame projector, and emergency stems. Now, just real quick with this, I'm giving him up close and personal and situational awareness because of independent. He's going to gain an aim or dodge. Maybe you give him a dodge if he needs it. You're only still going to gain 1 dodge per arsenal 2 because it's still 1 attack. You're just being able to combine, different weapons. So no matter what, the good thing is if maybe you went with independent dodge because he's in melee, and then maybe you take an aim and you have an aim and a dodge now, and then your second action is to use the boot spikes for your melee, and then you've got versatile with your integrated rockets. Well, now you're going to gain another dodge from if you make a ranged attack. So now you've got 2 dodges, and you might still be in melee, but they might be down. So that's just really, really good. And then the fact that he's going to be able to use those dodges to cancel crits is going to keep him alive a lot longer, and then with the flame projector being able to use it any time instead of having to rely on a command card is just way, way, way better. So And yeah, since the Boba's flame projector is melee and range 1, he'd be able to get a dodge from using that. The other way that can be really, really nice to gain so many dodges because of up close and personal is using the 2-pip, where making his way in the galaxy, using the 2-pip where he can perform an attack. At the end of his activation, he may perform an attack with only the following weapon against each enemy unit at range 1 and in line of sight. So maybe there's 2 or 3 units at range 1 and in line of sight that he's going to be able to attack. That's 3 extra dodges. So you'd be able to move, and then use that and gain tons of dodges. Or maybe and then you don't have independent because you're going to be giving him the order. So maybe you have to move and then take a dodge, maybe an aim, and then you attack 2 or 3 more units. That's an extra 2 or 3 more dodges. You're stacking up the dodges on Boba Fett, making him a lot more dangerous. And again, with Sharpshooter 2, the amount of aims that you need with already, Sharpshooter 2 and Pierce, it's a 50-50 shot that he's getting something on those black dice, but also with Surgeon Crit and, it's just insane. He's going to be so much better just by himself without even command cards. Just this alone, I feel like, in my opinion, is going to be a Boba Fett that you can just, if you have Kallus, Din, and Boba, you could really only need to worry about Kallus and Din's command cards, and then just let Boba just do what he wants. Because then with his flame projector here, and versatile with up close and personal, gaining all those dodges, it's just insane. And then with emergency stems, you're holding him alive a lot longer. So now your objective holder or your objective doer or whoever he needs to be is just going to be able to cause way more havoc for a longer duration. And then you do have your stormtroopers. Both have the DLT-19, so you do have heavies on both of them that are range 4 and impact 1. And then you do have your shore troopers, again, range 4, with 4 dice at range 4. The mortar, which is range 4. You've got your 2 pike foot soldiers, which are all range 4. You've got strike teams, which are range 5. I mean, and then your Agent Kallus, if needs to, can stop some, force users from getting in so fast, I should say, sometimes. And, or at least, if there's Wookiees that are going to be coming in or the Magna Guard that are coming in, Agent Kallus can do his best to slow those down and keep them from withdrawing with his command card, and or keep them in melee. He's immune to pierce, so he's not getting pierced down. So he's your best little melee user in this entire list. But all of this is pretty much range 4 and beyond. There's so much that you're going to be able to do, and just even kind of forget about Boba Fett. But if you want to do, Boba Fett's got a ton of good command cards. So, I've got his whipcord launcher in here, making his way in the galaxy, and then rule with respect, because maybe Boba Fett is in range of pretty much almost in the middle of everybody. Now, you're not going to be able to do everybody because it's at range 1. So, unless you have the pikes, the strike teams, the shore troopers, the mortar, the storms, all at range 1 of him somehow. Or maybe you have Boba Fett so far in front, and then all of a sudden you were able to, move a stormtrooper at range 1, and then move another stormtrooper at range 1, and then maybe you already have the mortar and the shores at range 1. They'd be able to do so much at range 4. Or maybe in the very, very beginning, you put them next to the strike teams, and or maybe the pikes or the mortar. You're going to be able to add you're going to have 3 black dice for your strike team, high velocity, shooting into maybe heavy cover, light cover at that point. So Pierce 1, that card can go such a long way because you're giving it to 2 units. So you're probably going to be able to give it to your strike teams if you wanted. And Boba Fett, because they've got, they've already got, scout. So it might be beyond range 1, but there's tons of possibilities. I just like it so much. And then with contingencies, if you wanted to, you could bring a simple man, which is what I would probably bring, and or maybe jetpack rocket in case you need that little bit of extra oomph against armor. So yeah. And then, I've already included the things at the bottom, like the conditions, objectives, and deployments. So that way, if you do decide to use these lists, which will be in the description, you can already have that set. But I'm just trying to give you like good combinations, good things to use, and kind of good strategies basically based on them. So this is a ton of troopers. These are all troopers basically. And then you've got pretty good kind of like order control, except for Boba Fett being random. So intercept the transmissions would be perfect because that's all trooper based. Hostage exchange, you're going to be able to get in fast with Kallus and his attention cables and or Boba Fett. And then again, everyone is ranged 4 and or 5. So if they do get a little bit ahead, especially with recover the supplies, you've got the range to be able to get to them. And then with payload, you've got so many people. This is okay to be able to move and shoot far away, and try to dwindle down their activations. But honestly, with payload, it's a little bit better if you do have some melee. So that's why, again, Agent Kallus can be a little bit more melee oriented if he needs to be. And then lastly, we're going to go with Kallus and Boba in a skirmish. So up close and personal, situational, and his flame projector. And then tenacity again on Kallus again, because you're going to be getting super, super close. Just 2 stormtroopers. Ooh. Sorry, guys. And then 2 dewback riders with tenacity. So you can get in and hammer your opponent. But yeah, that's kind of Kallus and a few lists to use Kallus in. And then you won't have to worry about having so many activations now with the pass rule. And the pass, again, is going to really benefit your shore troopers and mortars because of fire support. And especially if you have 10 activations. The higher activations you have, and then you being able to use fire support, you're probably going to be able to just dominate, in my opinion, sometimes. Because then you'll be able to pass and not have to worry about, trying to find cover or, sometimes it kind of would be perfect to have to pass because you're trying to stay back sometimes and not get shot at so quickly, especially if you already have fewer activations. So if you do have fewer activations already and you're trying not to get shot at and move in so quickly, you're going to be able to have the ability to pass if you have fewer remaining units left, basically either on the field, on a card, and or in your bag. So, and it's just with remaining units. It's not units total. So that's just one thing to do. But yeah, with line of sight, it's going to be great because you're not going to have to worry about dodge so much. So now that as long as you're obscured just a tiny bit, you're going to gain cover from that. But with cover, until the full rules come out and explain a lot more, it's just going to be a little bit difficult. But, I'm excited that you won't have to worry about dodge spamming because you're going to be able to benefit from cover so much more. So I think it balances out pretty well. But all right, guys, that is it for Kallus. I know it's kind of like a somewhat breakdown, and it had a bunch of other characters, but Kallus being able to move and gain those aims, and with a command card gain dodges. So you double move, you have charge already. You double move, you're gonna get an aim dodge. Use those 2 aims, one probably to reroll, and another one for Pierce, and then they can't withdraw. They try to hit you. You use your dodge. You dodge 2, and you only have to roll for like 1 or 2. You're going to gain surge defense. So you're pretty much keeping him alive that round. He's going to have that free recover. There's so much great stuff, especially with sharpshooter 1, tactical 1. He's going to be good at moving and shooting. So yeah, pair him up with people. See what you like. You can use him by himself like this. I've just used dewback riders, royal guards, and Agent Kallus. And then the only reason I used Kallus in this one was to try to get as many activations as I can that were pretty beefy. So if I had Vader in there, you probably wouldn't be able to use a lot of activations. But this one, I've got 4 melee units that are pretty decent. So going up against Wookiees and or Wookiee and Chieftain, you're going to be able to shoot them from far away, hopefully gain that Pierce. And then when they get close, you're immune to Pierce, and then you're immune to Pierce and melee. And then dewback riders have a really nice attack. Yeah. So I'll leave it there. All right, guys, I will hopefully see you in the next one. If you haven't already, go ahead and head to the Discord, subscribe there, join in on the conversations because it's a great place. I love, all of you guys that are in here, Emperor Atlantis, Auburn alumni, for first alms, I think, was it? They've done a lot. Final alms. If I'm saying that right. And everyone else who's doing, everything in here, kudos. The chosen one. Nice. All right, guys. Yeah, sorry. And then if you haven't already, head to theburnacademy.com, $15 a month for, a brand new year. I think it'd be great for all of you guys to get started on that. And if you ever need help, you can always message me, or if you ever have questions, you can always message me or leave a comment down below. But I will catch you guys in the next video. See you guys later.